Welcome to WP-Tonic, episode 53. Today I'm here with Jonathan Denwood from both MailRite and WP-Tonic. And we're going to be talking about first the news. Jonathan's going to take the news today. I'm kind of busy, didn't get the news down. And we're also going to go into themes. And we're going to be two parts. This will be part one about themes. And what we'll be talking about today on themes is Jonathan will go into sort of the broad-based understanding of themes. I'll go in a little bit about my philosophy and what I've used for a theme the last couple of years. Go ahead, Jonathan, take it away.
Yeah, all right, Bill. It's been an interesting month for WordPress news-wise. I was in two minds to go into this story, but there's been a couple podcasters in the WordPress area that have remarked about this story. So it's the ongoing dispute between Matt and Chris Pearson. If you've been involved in the WordPress community for any time, you know Chris. Chris is a respected owner of a theme framework called Thesis. This personal dispute, in a way, has been going on between Matt and Chris for over 5 years. There was a famous interview that was hosted by Andrew Warner 5 years ago. You can still see it, where Chris and Matt had a quite a passionate but also slightly bitter discussion in public about their different views. And recently it flared up again in public. Basically, I think through the WordPress Foundation, they bought Thesis.com. They bought it. It wasn't owned by Chris. And then they repointed it to, I think it was the WordPress.org. Chris' response to this was not unexpected, and it ended up legally. It's been finalised recently, and Matt and the WordPress Foundation won the case. My view on this is that this is a sad state of affairs for both parties. It's sad to see two people that are so well known in the WordPress community having to settle their differences in this way. And I wish both that they at some stage can settle this and come to some form of settlement. I just found the whole thing a bit sad, Bill, actually.
Very good, very good. You know, I was just looking that up. It says Theme Sharper, and it is a WordPress site that it goes to. Kind of strange. So how did they get a hold of Thesis.com?
I don't really know. I'm just bringing it up because other podcasters have remarked, and they made quite strong statements. I'm not prepared to make, because I think it's putting gasoline on the fire. But on the other hand, I think not remarking about it at all has been a bit Pollyannish.
Right.
You know, so I think there's and I've tried to adopt. I truly do mean this. I think it's
pretty bizarre. I mean, Thesis, THESIS.com. Stick that in there, and it's going to redirect you to themeshaper.com, which is definitely WordPress. WordPress site, Themeshaper. Some kind of it's got the little WordPress logo.
Yeah. So that's my bit on it.
So WordPress-powered blog. By the way, it goes to, this is the Themeshaper, a WordPress-powered blog in the home of Automatic Theme Division.
Yes.
Automatic, which is definitely Matt's. Yeah. And we shape beautiful and customized themes that make the world a better place. That is crazy.
Like I say, I think the whole affair is been damaging to WordPress and the WordPress community.
Yep.
Obviously, one party might be responsible a bit more than the other. it's a bit like a divorce. It takes two to have a marriage, and it takes two to have a divorce normally.
By the way, next week, tune in because we'll go back over some of this news. And what we'll do is we'll do episode 54. We're going to do a little experiment. We're going to come up on Google Plus Hangout and do it so we can pull this up. Yes. I think the sound's getting good enough on Google Plus in the world of podcasting.
We'll see, Bill. The next story I like to go through is WordPress 4.2 critical security release. When this policy of automatic updates was declared, and for logical reasons, I can understand why it was pushed by the leaders of WordPress.org. It all sounded good, but there was concerns as well. We're dealing with a very diverse WordPress community with very diverse themes, plugin mixtures, different hosting providers, and a lot of people said that this wasn't such a good, understandable, but not the greatest idea. Unfortunately, with this release and the other streamer releases around this, it took down a lot of sites, basically. It took down, in percentage terms, it probably not an enormous amount, but being that WordPress is so popular and drives so many other sites on the internet, it was a sizable amount of people's sites. And if you're one of those that was brought down and it was critical, and you didn't listen to WP-Tonic's last few podcasts about having a backup and having your backups, multiple backups, you might have got into a difficult place, Bill.
Yep. That's true. That's true. And I have something strange right now happening on numerous of my sites, and I was really wondering about it. I need to do more research. This week, I've got a plugin that is showing all of my plugins are backed up, yet it shows that there's a plugin that needs to be backed up. Have you seen that? I've got a bunch of my sites like that.
No, not really, Bill.
Okay, we'll talk about that offline. I thought maybe you might have the magic for that.
Got no magic for you, Bill.
That's almost like there's
I've only, like Winston Churchill said, I've only got tears, sweat, and what else did he say?
He said a lot. Winston Churchill said a lot.
He did. So shall we go on to the main theme of this episode, Bill?
Yeah, let's do it. Themes. Themes. Yes,
themes. And I'm bringing this up because a fellow podcaster, Matt from the Matt Report, who was one of our first guests, did his own podcast and wrote a really nice post about themes. And his own theme shop actually makes themes, and they make commercial themes and they sell them. And he talks about his experience. And I think we can talk about this as well, and we can add more to what Matt said and offer some insight and value. Obviously, Matt's theme shop is Slocum Themes of Slocum Studios. There you are, Matt. A nice plug for you. But basically, themes and plugins really are at the heart of why WordPress has become so popular on the internet. And they're both great. They're both really key parts of the WordPress ecosystem. But if you're new to WordPress, and let's say you're the owner or you're being given the task in the organization to get the company's website up or to refresh it. Recently Google penalized websites that weren't responsive and mobile friendly, and also the speed factor. They've introduced a spectrum of different measurements, and if you don't meet what Google wants, your SEO and your position on the internet will be damaged. So a lot of people recently have been looking at making their site truly responsive, modernize it. So they've been looking at WordPress, Bill. And, there's various ways you can deal with this. You can buy, you can get a free theme from WordPress.org, but most commercial organizations, and I would recommend that they do this, would be looking at a commercial theme. There's commercial theme frameworks, or they're just commercial free themes. And if you're new to the world of WordPress, I've got to, and I don't mean this in a disparaging term, Bill, but themes are like the Wild West of web design. There's a lot of misinformation, and which causes new people to maybe have artificial expectations about what they should expect from a commercial theme, what can be achieved with a commercial theme, and what can't be achieved, what's realistic when it comes to support, and how do you choose a quality theme, and what should be the process of choosing that theme. What's your feelings about all this, Bill?
Theme is really, really, really important. And I think my story is a good one. I've been around web pages for 20 years, not necessarily the expert programmer, but I can get around HTML a bit. And I used to build web pages with other tools that, web emulators, things of that nature. Got into WordPress about 2 years ago, now coming back into this business. And the first thing I did, first of all, I got into WordPress because of my podcasting. And I think it's the best platform for podcasting, period, WordPress. And you can do other things too. You can expand your WordPress. So I had to get a theme. But my first theme, I got a free theme. And I started playing with themes, looking at themes. There's so much confusing. There's a lot of I'm not really saying this right. You can get very confused over so many choices and so many themes and so many rabbit holes. And if you go down the wrong direction in a theme, it disappears or just gets antiquated or it's not responsive, you're screwed. You've put all this time and effort and you've learned it, especially as a new person. So I got lucky. I started going to the WordPress meetups. You know that's where we met, I'm pretty sure, a couple of years ago. Right when I first got out of my military and background a couple of years ago, started coming immediately. Even before I got into Reno, I was always coordinating to go to WordPress meetup. Mike Fitzpatrick, a common friend of ours who organizes with you the WordPress meetup here in Reno, and Tracy, of course, too. But Mike uses Genesis and Dynamic, and I had this free theme, and he looked at it, and he's a business guy, very, very successful, and does a lot of work for automobile dealerships and remarkets the system. Well, I just started learning Genesis and Dynamic, and I think I got really lucky because of that. And I'm also lucky that I stuck with it. I didn't deviate too much to other themes. I didn't waste a lot of money on themes. I mean, I feel very fortunate. I use Genesis Dynamic, and it's a great combination to get real good. And we'll explain it more in the next show because the next show, Jonathan, we'll talk a little bit more. Our next show, 54, is going to be a little test. We're going to come up on Google Plus Hangouts, and I'll bring it up and show the back panel. And if you want to, I guess I can bring up a theme for you too. So we're doing back to back today. Today is Thursday. This is going to go up Sunday. We're going to do 2 of them because I'm going to go on the road next week.
Yes, you're disappearing, Bill.
And I'll be doing some MailRite stuff though too. We'll see if we can't get some new MailRite product out. So anyway, that's my thought. I got very lucky. I like Genesis Dynamic. I have the developer licenses for both. I've actually set up 5 paying customers on those systems, and I help WordPress. What I do is I help podcasters get set up so they can expand to do the same thing that I did. Mm-hmm. And you know what? The other thing too I'll say is don't get more than what you need. Does that make sense? Unless you're a super duper pro. I'm going to ask you a question. You have a bunch of new clients. They vary from everywhere, from place to place, and some of them know WordPress, some don't know WordPress, and some are really rich and some aren't so rich. Some are institutions. Well, how do you recommend a theme to someone? They come to you and tell you what you want, and then you recommend a theme. So what's that process?
Well, it's really that's a great question, Bill, and I was going to go into that anyway. The question is slightly different, but the fundamentally it's down to budget, really, because fundamentally I don't do as much development as I used to because I've been involved in MailRite and business development and sales. And I've been heavily involved in business development, all the rest of it. It's been a major investment. It was my choice.
I want to interrupt you real fast because I've seen it from the outside. I see a different perspective. I've watched you this last year evolve in SaaS, software as a service, SaaS. Yeah. And what I've really seen is how well you've got really excellent developers. Because you can develop, you can find these developers who are really virtual assistants offshore, but they're really good. And they're trusted and it's working. And I think that skill alone makes you super valuable. It's between you and me.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. But when I'm dealing as a WordPress consultant with somebody that has actively developed and still does it, basically, it's a price issue. Fundamentally, there's some excellent starter themes, bare bones themes,
freebies
there are also some frameworks that are not as have as many child themes as StudioPress and Genesis. There's a lot of choice, but there's a lot of what I would call developer starter themes that are based on responsive grids. We could talk a whole episode, but if they're looking for a full custom design, we would start on that, and I probably would base it on Genesis.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you said Genesis. That's interesting. You said Genesis. Go ahead.
Yeah, because my developer team are very experienced with Genesis.
That's good. I like that. It's good for me.
They're probably much more experienced than I, because I've been trying to learn it and struggle. But my struggles are more to do with time restraints. But basically, so there's a difference between price. One of the drawbacks when it comes to StudioPress, and it's, there will not be the perfect solution. If you're not dealing with a full custom or semi-custom budget, you're dealing with a client that's got a limited budget. Obviously, StudioPress have got a wide, compared to other theme shops, they've got a wide array of pre-designed child themes. But this is my point of view, Bill, and some would disagree with me, but is that one of the things with StudioPress is that they tend to look all the same. They were mostly designed by Brian, who was with Brian Clark, the two Brians, was the chief. Started StudioPress and was the chief designer. He's moved on, and they've got another designer that's been, I forgot the gentleman's name, unfortunately.
Isn't Brian Clark one of the big owners, though? Founders?
It was two Brians. They're called, I forgot the gentleman's name. Brian Clark was one of the owners, but there was another Brian who was actually the designer and started StudioPress.
And you can go back and catch Brian in one of our live shows, about 40-something.
But one of the slight criticisms is that I feel that a lot of their designs, if you've got an eye for it, you can tell it's a Genesis StudioPress design. Obviously, you can get around that by fully customizing. One of our on our live show, Brian Bourne and his wife Jennifer. They're fully a Genesis coding house, but they only do full custom work. They do a full custom design that's unique for your website, and then they use the Studio framework and they custom code it, they manipulate it. But that you're talking about $10,000 because they're experienced, and you get a high quality product that's stable, from a good, excellent coding, and you're getting their market experience. Well, there's a lot of clients that can't afford that, can't afford anything near it. So you're looking at getting a theme, and if they don't like what StudioPress has to offer, you're a little bit stuck because they can't afford or are unwilling to pay for a semi-custom design. So you've got taking a theme, and semi-custom covers a wide spectrum of what is a semi-custom. It could be just changing the logo, the colours, a slight bit of the layout of the home page, to virtually getting to the other end of the spectrum, where you would have been better off just doing a full custom design. And that's where project management and being upfront and being strong enough as a consultant to really guide the client comes in. But there are a lot of circumstances where clients do not have the budget or are unwilling to pay the budget. So we're then looking at just a theme and some minor changes. Well, StudioPress might not have a design that appeals to the client. So then you're going to have to look at outside the world of Genesis. There are a lot of third-party Genesis theme producers. Also, some of them are excellent. Mm-hmm. So you might be able to find something there as well. You could look outside the world of StudioPress, and it still would be based on Genesis.
Right. StudioPress is very reasonable, has lots and lots of child themes, and you can buy them in a package. You can buy the developer package. It's pretty impressive. I use Dynamic. I don't want to really go down those holes of the other themes because they still take work.
Yeah, it's very different. I developed something for you, and you looked at it and you found it, even though it was based on Genesis, you found it a bit alien, didn't you, Bill? Because it's not
absolutely.
Because it's not based on Dynamic.
Right. Well, not just alien. All of Genesis works similar, but you still had to get in there, and you had to. Every theme you have to learn and it does a lot. It's a real estate theme. It does a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I understand that, Bill. So, but let's say that even though you looked at some third-party Genesis theme, I'm in a difficult situation because as a personal front-end developer, I struggle a little bit about the actual mechanics, not the coding standard, because everybody I respect in the WordPress community have always said that the StudioPress, the Genesis coding standards were very high and very stable. And people that I totally respect their opinion have said that to me. But as a personal code, I have struggled with the way that you actually develop, but people say that everybody does initially for the first 6 months. They all struggle. If they're coming from a more traditional WordPress background. But let's say you can't find something and you then go into, or for whatever reason you don't want to use Genesis or StudioPress, you just don't want to go down that road. There's the big 100 gorilla in this industry is ThemeForest, and there's other theme marketplaces as well. Their names escape me, but the big gorilla in the theme marketplace is in the commercial WordPress theme marketplace is ThemeForest. Now, this is where you get into the Wild West, Bill. You got to understand what as a newbie, you probably won't be aware of this. And there's also other theme shops that are that offer, you buy you pay a one-off and you get a whole library of themes. But with Theme Forest, they have thousands and thousands and thousands of themes, Bill. But what you got to understand as a newbie, that each theme is developed by separate people. So you have theme authors that solely sell through Theme Forest, and by doing that, Theme Forest takes less of a share of the purchase price of that particular theme. If you're a theme developer and you want to sell not only on Theme Forest but also on your own website, Theme Forest takes a higher percentage of the purchase price if it's purchased through Theme Forest. But what you got to understand, Bill, as a newbie, if you're going to Theme Forest, is that every theme that you might be looking at will be developed by a different developer. And in all fairness to Theme Forest, they have upped their game by they look at the code base from new theme developers who are seeking to sell their themes through Theme Forest, and they produce procedures and documentation and checking very similar to what WordPress.org do about checking themes. They've got a theme checking team, and it has got better, but you do have to understand that all these themes come from different theme developers, and they have different ideas, different coding standards, different ways of coding, different experience levels. One of the controversial elements of Theme Forest, and it's also is that some of the most popular themes in Theme Forest, those that have sold thousands and thousands and thousands of themes, some of the top producers in Theme Forest are what some in the WordPress community would say are very bloated themes. They're very generalistic themes that can do a lot of different things. But what you find, and they're very, very popular with newbies, but what you find, there are some of these themes that I won't deal with because they are so complicated in the way they've been coded that if you try and do any kind of level of customization, apart from the most basic that the actual theme offers, you can rapidly go into a rabbit warren, Bill.
Yep. When you get in your PHP and your code and all that. Hey, Jonathan, we need to get on to the next show.
Yeah.
We went a little longer than I expected. We're going to be a 30-minute show, which is fine. Yeah. I'm looking forward to actually re-listening to the show and digesting, especially the last 10 minutes. You put a lot of good information out. So without further ado, tune in next week for episode 54, which we're about to do right now. But on 54, we're going to even try something different. It's going to be fun. We're going to go up on Google Plus Hangout. I can't believe I've ever said that. We've been doing a lot of research. I could do some, I'm not going to do it, but I could talk about podcasting, some of the things that are happening that are really neat. Maybe I will. I'll talk about that when we talk about themes. Anything else, Jonathan? Sign off? Aloha out there.
Well, I just want to say to people that me and Bill are going to be traveling in September. WP-Tonic are sponsoring our Los Angeles WordCamp in September, and also we're sponsoring Las Vegas WordCamp, aren't we, Bill?
So we'll see a lot of our friends there. And
if you're going at Los Angeles, we are going to have a table. We're obviously with WP-Tonic, the commercial side of WP-Tonic is the maintenance and support of WordPress sites.
Sounds good. Hey, Jonathan, we'll talk about next show, and you need some coffee. Here, have some of my coffee. It's a little, I just spilt it.
Yeah, just throw it over your computer, Bill.
I've got some fresh coffee. You're doing the Diet Coke. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee and we'll get ready for the next episode. Let's take 10. Aloha. Aloha out there, WordPress. Having the right website can be a game changer. It is your platform, and with website hosting, marketing, design, all being critical parts of the equation, it can be a daunting task. But there's good news. You don't have to spend months learning WordPress, list building, and SEO for your podcast website. Get up and running fast. We have the solution. Join Podcasters Home today, and for a limited time, we'll set up your website hosting, list builder, and create a custom podcast website. When you have your website and podcast up and running and you're ready to take it to the next level, as well as reduce the stress of managing your WordPress sites, let Jonathan and his team do all the hard work. Go to WP-Tonic.com/services to see how Jonathan's programs can save you hours each month and keep your WordPress site optimized and up and running smoothly.